I'm kind of a big deal.
Really?
People know me.
Are you a virgin?
Yeah, not since I was 10.
Changed your name to McLovin? What, are you trying to be an Irish R&B singer?
You could not pay me enough to be 24 again. Well, they're not paying me at all.
Oh my God. Sports? I love them.
Who are your favorite teams?
The Orlando Blooms.
We were roommates, and he was just always about everybody else. We had no idea you were going to become whatever the hell you are right now.
Over the past quarter century, you've been responsible for some of the smartest and most genre-changing comedies in the industry, but your desire to be funny started at a very early age.
That's true. I mean, I was into the Marx Brothers at like 10, and that turned into George Carlin and Saturday Night Live and Monty Python and all of those great John Landis movies and Harold Ramis movies. So I've always been obsessed with it. I don't know why, but my brain just took me there. And
if I'm not mistaken, your first job was at a comedy club washing dishes, so you could just be close to the comedy.
I worked at the East Side Comedy Club on Long Island, and then I realized that if I wanted to see the show, I needed to be a busboy because I was in the kitchen. I couldn't see anything. And at that time, Rosie O'Donnell, she was just starting. She was one of the up-and-comers at the club. And Eddie Murphy was 21, and he was still coming in, working on his sets there. It was a pretty magical place.
I can imagine. I remember when I saw Eddie Murphy Delirious for the first time. I was in middle school, so I shouldn't have been watching it, but it literally changed my life. One of the things that I've just loved has been The Simpsons. I know you're a big fan as well.
Tonight's movie is Life is Funny, directed by Judd Apatow. It's based on his life, starring his family, and ad-libbed by his friends. So for the next 3.5 hours, enjoy.
I just got finished listening to an audiobook from Mike Reese, longtime writer, and he said your book, Sick in the Head, was one of the 6 great comedy books to read. How would you say that you have translated funny to such a successful career?
I've always been a fan of it above all.
I'm just gonna call an Uber, go home, and I hope
Your driver will be ready as soon as he puts on his pants.
Everyone should experience first class at least once in their lives, and Annie shouldn't miss out just because she can't afford it. Help me, I'm poor.
In addition to making comedy films, I've made documentaries like the one about Gary Shandling.
When I follow a magic act where the guys use birds, cool birds, I say to the audience that they shouldn't be concerned that those are birds that were raised in sport jackets. And
I'm always looking for new ways to talk about comedy. I'm about to start a documentary about George Carlin.
When you drink grapefruit juice in the morning, do you go... I do too. Why do we drink it?
This is how I process the world and information and emotion, and I don't know how I would survive without it.
He's playing fetch with my kids. He's treating my kids like they're dogs.
No, he's not.
Go get it, fetch.
He's fetch with kids.
Right.
In your Netflix stand-up special, you say it's an art form to not be terrified. Now, you've been doing this for a long time, but do you still feel scared when you start a project, especially one that's a little bit different, like The King of Staten Island?
Yeah, because there's no way to know if it's going to work out, because all sorts of chemistry has to happen. There has to be little magical moments of improvisation and inspiration.
My dad has a very relaxed, loose way of shooting, and we do things a ton of times and improvise.
It's just the atmosphere is very, very different, very liberating once you know the rhythm.
Let's take again from Handle It. Ready? And action!
Handle it! What does it look like I'm doing? I'm trying to handle it. I'm standing my ground. I'm allowed to do this.
You just don't know if it'll work. You don't know. Even today, I'm scared. All the reviews come out today, and I keep getting emails like, the reviews look good, and I'm like, I'm not looking. They're like, but they are good. I'm like, I'm still not looking. I'm so scared.
Don't worry, Mom. I know your daughter got smart and went to college and abandoned us. But I'm still here. I'm gonna be here forever.
Yeah. You ever think about putting on the jacket?
Why would you even ask me that?
What's wrong with being a fireman?
It's fine if you don't have kids, because you don't know if you're gonna come home or not.
A lot of people have said to me, the trailer made me cry, which is a salute to the marketing people. And then I'm like, man, I hope the movie's as good as that trailer.
Great comedy usually comes from very dark places. The King of Staten Island was, semi-autobiographical.
What is that date?
That's the date my dad died.
Oh my God.
Pete is from Staten Island. His father was a fireman who lost his life on 9/11. It's an imagining of what Pete's life would have been if he didn't find comedy, and he dreams of being a tattoo artist.
But what are you gonna do? Are you gonna get a job, or are you gonna leave the house?
I'm gonna open that tattoo restaurant.
No, like for real.
It's never been done before. I looked it up.
The movie is like my love letter to my mom and trying to end that part of my life. I feel like maybe we got to a place where we could finally let go a little bit.
What was Pete's demeanor during the filming?
I think that it changed along the way. When we were first about to start shooting, he was very nervous. And the day before we started shooting the movie, he kept emailing me the IMDb resume pages of actors he thought would do a better job than him. And so he was trepidatious. But then I think he got comfortable with it. And there were a few scenes which were very hard for him because they were very emotional. But we would talk about them weeks in advance, you know, how we wanted to approach it and what might support him. So overall, I think it was a very, very fun, positive time.
One of my favorite scenes was dialogueless, when he was standing there in the ride-along watching Bill Burr's character go up into the flaming building, and you could just see it in his eyes. It was so effortless on his part, the way he conveyed his emotion to the screen. And I also think such a dramatic departure for Pete Davidson to do a movie like this, whereas somebody might think that he would do a Happy Gilmore or a Billy Madison, his first movie out.
I always said to him, I go, it took all of me and my friends 10 movies before we would ever try to make a movie like The King of Staten Island. For him to do it the first time out, the first movie that he's co-written, it is a real achievement.
He's doing a good job. Getting ready for his career, working at a car wash.
Why do I have to clean this thing anyway? It's just gonna get fire on it.
He manages to make you laugh and make you feel silly, but then also really kind of hit you with the serious stuff and make you cry.
The movie really is about heroes, and it's a tribute to their sacrifice.
It's about grief and processing grief, and it's about processing Pete's personal trauma, but also it's collective trauma.
We just wanted to make it as authentic and transparent as possible so that, you know, people at home could relate.
And I think it's really brave of him to put that out there, actually. I admire him a lot for that.
You know, to me, it feels like an album, like an early album from a great band. You know, that sometimes people just come right out of the box, you know, like Nirvana, and they just lay it all out. And this may be his Bleach.
I'm just hoping you enjoy the movie and that you could relate to it in a certain way.
That's what we do, we make movies.